The Eugene Johnson Show. The Eugene Johnson Show. The Eugene Johnson Show.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Eugene Johnson Show. I am your host, Eugene Johnson of the Crypto Crew. I want to first apologize for not making a recording in a while. I have been busy writing scripts. I have been busy making a stunt list for a future fan film I'm going to be starring in as Jason, 4E's. And so I've had to make a script and I've had to make a stunt list on things to do and things to do safely. So you'll have to forgive me for that. I'm also preparing for my 33rd birthday. At the time of this recording, it is Sunday, October 22nd, 2017. I turn 33 tomorrow, so I'm getting prepared for that. But anyway, I do want to thank each and every one of you for giving my Land Between the Lakes video over 5,000 views. That's really astounding to me. I never would have thought in a million years that anybody would watch a video more than once or twice, but I really do appreciate you guys watching that video. I'm very glad that you're enjoying the show. Yes, it's a little bit different now. It is a podcast because it just makes it, sending it to Thomas recording and uploading and all that a little bit easier. So that's why it has went from video to podcast. Plus, I don't like to be on film that much. I'm an actor, so I'm on it on a regular basis, and I don't even like to do that. But I do love acting. But again, after you have a camera in your face for a while, it gets kind of old. But anyway, on to tonight's show. The subject I'm going to be talking about happened on the night of August 15th of 1955 in Kelly, Kentucky, about 10 miles away from Hopkinsville. Apparently, there was a family by the name of Sutton that had a shootout with a UFO and several miniature Bigfoot-looking creatures. And again, thanks to our wonderful government, all news clippings and stories of this incident have mysteriously disappeared. That's one reason I did the Land Between the Lakes show, is because you hardly hear about it. There's not many resources online about that particular incident, or the fact that there's supposedly these type of creatures stalking the woods of Land Between the Lakes. It's definitely got me on guard after reading some of the stuff I've read and hearing some of the stories that I've been told about that particular area. But anyway, apparently this family was had some guests over one night, and they were staying over, and apparently this UFO had landed, and these creatures got out. And one of the people that were visiting with the Suttons that night was a fellow by the name of Billy Taylor. He went out to go get water from the well and apparently had a very mysterious encounter with one of these creatures and actually seen the ship. So he ran back into the house and got Mr. Sutton, which his name is not mentioned, so we'll just call him Mr. Sutton. And apparently Billy Taylor and his wife were from Pennsylvania and had told stories of seeing UFOs and stuff like that to Sutton, and but they never thought it would actually follow them to the small town of Kelly, Kentucky. But apparently the Taylors had many encounters with UFOs, and but that was mainly it. They never seen anything like Bigfoot or any Sasquatch type creature, no dogmen, nothing like that. They just seen UFOs. Apparently, it was a hot spot around their house. They lived in a very rural part of Pennsylvania. They never gave the name on the town, but apparently they had many UFO sightings. Enough UFO sightings to have our wonderful government come and stake out his place of residence for about 3 weeks. So, the one in Kentucky apparently was one of the biggest things to happen in that area in 1955, because apparently it's a small, sleepy, little town, and all of a sudden you had these people telling the local law enforcement and the government and everything else that there had been a landing and these strange creatures had gotten out of the ship, and Mr. Sutton and Billy Taylor fired at these creatures, which apparently only made them mad because they started growling and chasing the two men around the house, and they thought that they were seriously going to be injured or even worse. So they decided to, shoot as much as they could to scare them off, and they ran in the house and stayed in the living room area with the doors and windows bolted down and sitting behind the couch with shotguns and pistols and things of that nature ready to defend their home. But luckily, after about 4 hours of constant bombardment from these creatures and the ship, they finally, I guess, got tired of waiting around, so they never did try to enter the house. But they were surrounding it, and they thought that they were going to enter and wind up, possibly injured or destroyed. So the Suttons stayed there with their guns drawn and stayed awake all night waiting for these things to come in so they could defend their house, but they never came in, luckily. And I guess it just, they went out. There was no footprints or anything like that, but there was a very, very strange burnt circle on the hill from their house. So apparently the local law enforcement came in to investigate, and they did the one thing that I guess all law enforcement does when faced with this type of encounter. They called the wonderful government. And yes, I call it the wonderful government because I do not like the way government officials conduct these types of investigations, because the poor people that seen these things and seen ships and Bigfoot, dog men, whatever you want to call it, any kind of mysterious creature, they're always shut up and made to be quiet and made to make everybody not believe that they've seen these type of things, when I know different. I've heard stuff, I've seen stuff, and it's just completely ridiculous that the government would make you want to shut up about stuff you've seen and basically make you look like a fool. But I do believe that they did see what they saw. I believe they did fight these creatures. And I do believe that there were, certain measures to cover it up for specific reasons that we may know in the future, or we may never know. That's why I call it the wonderful government that it is. To me, growing up around my great-grandfather, who was full-blooded Native American, and some of the stories he would tell us when about the government and the land that we had and that was took away from us. But anyway, that's the story of the Hopkinsville UFO. And I also wanted to speak on a story that I find very, very, very true and if you ask me, I think that it holds so much significance as the Gimlin and Patterson footage, and that's the Paul Freeman footage. To me, after seeing the video many times, I do have to say that it's one of the most convincing videos I've seen. And I mean, if you watch the video, you can look it up on YouTube right now. All you gotta do is put in the Freeman footage, and you will see it pop up. It's going to be the first recommendation. And if you watch that video closely, you can see specific moves of this creature that resembles Patty, and that's no joke. Apparently, Paul Freeman had many encounters with these things. That started in 1982 and worked its way up till 1994 when he actually captured a video of the creature. But it was in the summer of 1988 that he really had a very hair-raising encounter with these things. He was from Washington State, and he was actually a patrol rider in the Watershed County near Walla Walla. And apparently he had seen many footprints of these creatures and decided to investigate. So around, he was seeing them from 1982 all the way up to 94. And then unfortunately, here a while back, he passed away. But before he did, he told of a hair-raising encounter that he had in 1988 in Watershed County, where he went to investigate a report of a sighting. And when he rode up there, apparently there was, as in his words, maybe 10 to 12 of these things in the woods around him. He could hear them. He couldn't see them, but he could hear them, which makes me think that, everybody says, well, the cloaking and stuff. I don't necessarily believe in the cloaking. I just think that where they have been in the woods all their life, they are much more skilled hunters than we are. I mean, if you go back in time and look at the Native Americans of the land, they were some of the most skilled hunters ever to be, on this earth. Also, cavemen, back in the, at the beginning of time, they were also very skilled hunters. I mean, you'd have to be able to take down a saber-toothed tiger or a, one of the big dinosaurs that roamed back in those days. I mean, you had to be pretty smart not to get killed. So I think that some of that gene is within these creatures, and when they don't want to be seen, they will not be seen. Like I said, I don't necessarily believe it's cloaking. I just believe that they're very skilled hunters that know how to hide themselves from people's eyes. So anyway, he said that he heard about 10 to 12 of these things in the woods surrounding him. So he got terrified, jumped off of his horse. The horse bolted and took off. He finally found it later, but the horse took off in the opposite direction, and he was left alone when all of a sudden he heard a scream and a roar behind him. So what he did was he run about 150 feet until he got over an embankment area, and there he hid under a rotted log and waited for the sounds to cease, which they eventually did. But it still scared him very badly. I do have to say that Mr. Freeman was a braver man than I would be, because if I heard these things, I would probably have been, not wanting to go back in the woods again. But that is one reason that I don't necessarily want to harm anything. But my suggestion is, if you're a novice at wanting to hunt these creatures or, prove their existence, my advice would be to carry a firearm with you always. It goes back to previous videos where I have said many, many times, you do not want to encounter one of these things, because like I said, I believe in a way that many others believe, just like people. I believe there's good ones, there's bad ones, and there's just flat out crazy ones. And in certain parts of the world, if you go to a certain area where bad people are, you're going to get hurt or killed. And I believe it applies the same to these creatures. I do believe some of them are extremely dangerous. I do believe some of them would kill anyone that walked, in front of them within a blink of an eye. And I mean, you take a creature that is anywhere from 8 to 10 feet tall and weigh over 800 to 1,000 pounds, that can kill you really, really quick. I mean, that's pretty big, that's pretty dangerous. And I mean, seeing some of these tree breaks that they do, they twist the branches, not break them like a normal person would. They twist them until they pop. And some of these branches that I've seen, I'm about, I'm going to say about 6'1" and weigh 300 pounds. And some of these branches are as thick as my arm. And that's pretty scary, knowing that something could snap a branch that size like a toothpick. But like I said many, many times, you don't want to go out and hunt these things and you not know what you're doing. You always want to make sure you got some kind of protection with you. You want to make sure if you don't have service on your cell phone, you need to make sure you got some kind of equipment to contact the outside world, because you don't never know what's going to happen in the woods. I mean, that's not just saying about, these creatures. I mean, you could go into the woods and be hurt by bears, bobcats, wolves, coyotes. Anything out there in the woods is dangerous, and can be extremely dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. There has been many people that have wound up lost or missing because they had no idea how to track or navigate through the woods. You always want to have a compass, a map if possible, to make sure you know where you're going. And before you go camp out somewhere in the middle of nowhere, then quite possibly not make it back out, you want to make sure that you scope out the area before you go into camp to make sure there's no predators or anything like that around. So yeah, with that being said, I mean, if you guys want to go out and hunt Bigfoot or whatever, more power to you. I mean, if you know what you're doing, that's all the more great. And hopefully somebody out there in the field now, here pretty soon, will be able to prove some kind of, have some sort of evidence of their existence. I'm waiting for it patiently. I do believe they exist. I do believe that they're very smart creatures. I do believe that they can disappear when they need to. And like I said, I do believe that some of them are dangerous. But on the subject of the first story, me, my uncle, and my grandfather have always believed in UFOs. I do believe that UFOs are more common than the creature of Bigfoot, because there has been many, many more sightings of UFOs than there have been of Big Feet. But I do concur on that on one aspect. Like I said before, they are masters of camouflage and hiding in the woods. And when you're looking in the sky, you have one big open area against a blue background. And I mean, if it's a silver craft, you're going to see a silver craft in the sky. And if it's going faster than a plane, you're going to know what it is. But like on the other hand, where you're in the woods and people sometimes see a bear and think it's a Sasquatch, you know, that can happen because there's huge bears in the woods. And I mean, you know, you can mistake things in the woods quicker than you can seeing a really strange object flying in the middle of the sky. And I mean, also, if it's letting off bright colored lights, and if the sky's dark with a storm or rain or snow or whatever, you're going to see, you know, that very, very clearly. And I think that's why London has gotten a lot of UFO sightings, is because if you actually look at London, every time I've seen pictures of London, it's always overcast type sky. And of course, the overcast type sky are going to let you see brightly blinking lights a lot more clearer than, say, a blue sky. I mean, you can still see them, but not as good. But I mean, every time I've seen pictures of London, or talked to people in London, or have seen vlogs with some of my friends that live in London, it's always an overcast day. And I mean, I guess it's been that way since the beginning of time, because I mean, it's just the truth. It's always overcast. I have seen it sunny a few times, but most of the time it's overcast, because I've got a good friend that lives in London that I speak to occasionally, that, you know, he's got dogs, and he'll post and say that he needed to take his dogs for a walk, but the weather wouldn't allow it. So, I mean, it's a frequent occasion when he's talking about the weather in England, and, you know, that it's always rainy or a black sky. So I think that's why we get so many reports from London about UFO sightings. But anyway, guys, that about wraps it up for this show. I figured I'd do a small show tonight. I have been doing a lot of research on more stories to tell you guys. I'm trying to tell you all accounts that maybe have fell by the wayside or have been covered up some way, so I'm trying to keep it fresh and new. I know that the Land Between the Lakes story has been around a while, but I don't think too many people know about it because it's been covered up so much, and well, a lot of people are not going to study Kentucky history or anything like that. Plus, I think that a lot of the stories that have surfaced on the internet about the Land Between the Lakes, you know, I think that the government altered a lot of the encounters that's happened there. I think people are still having encounters there, but they're scared to reach out to somebody to tell them their situation or what they saw, or, you know, or they might be just scared. I mean, because, you know, I couldn't imagine seeing a dog man. To be honest with you, they terrify me, and the stories that I've heard about them have terrified me, because Apparently, the dogman creature is a very aggressive killer type creature that if it's more wild than has intelligence. It's got intelligence, but it's more of the aggressive type that would want to kill somebody. Meanwhile, the Sasquatch creatures, they have a lot of intelligence, and I think they're more curious than harmful, to a certain extent. Now, I believe that a certain type of Sasquatch can get angry and rip your head off? Yes, quite possibly. But the dogmen and the Type 3 Sasquatch, I think, are some of the most dangerous creatures out there. Because I heard a theory a while back on the Type 3 Sasquatch. And I believe this theory quite a bit. The Native Americans years ago would tell stories of these cannibal ape men. And apparently, if these cannibal ape men would fight each other, when the one would die, the other one, the winner of that fight, would eat him. So I believe that theory, and I believe that many of my Native American ancestors disappeared due to that type of Sasquatch. There have been many accounts of Native Americans disappearing around Kentucky and other southern and northern states. Also, Canada was one of the big ones. But I wouldn't mind taking a trip out to Washington and quite possibly California. Hopefully, my acting career will take me to California, and while I'm there to shoot a movie or do stunts or whatever, I'll be able to cruise on down to Bluff Creek and check out, some of the area. That would be pretty fun, and I think I could learn a lot more knowledge about the subject. I do know quite a bit now, but it doesn't hurt to grow. But anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoy tonight's show. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate all your support, all your views. And again, like I've said, if any of you have a encounter to report, please contact Thomas at the Crypto Crew. You can go to www.thecryptocrew.com and submit a report. Or you can email me directly if you want your story told. I will tell it however you want me to. I will make sure if you want your name left out, I will leave your name out. I'll just tell your encounter. You can email me directly at Hulk18227 at yahoo.com. Once again, that's Hulk18227 at yahoo.com. HULK18227 at yahoo.com. I'm always available. My email is linked to my tablet, so I'm always checking my tablet. And so, if you guys got a story or a question or anything like that, you can contact me anytime. And till next time, I will see you all soon, and be safe, and God bless.
Очень